citizens, we all enjoy the rights of due process and the right to a trial before a jury of our peers. Your service as a juror makes this possible. You will be asked to judge the facts of a case and decide which facts are the most credible. Serving as a juror is one of the most important responsibilities you have as a citizen of this country. It is the rule of law which keeps us safe and protects our freedoms. Here in Iowa, our judicial system is widely regarded for its fair and impartial courts. Your service keeps our system strong.
This video has been created for you, the juror. It is intended to give you a general idea of your role as a juror and what you can expect. The court will do its best to make sure you are as comfortable as possible and to make the best possible use of your time. The time you spend as a juror is about you doing your civic duty. Along the way, you may meet some new friends. You may also find it interesting to watch our justice system at work, all while doing your part to serve justice. Now is your chance. You are about to become a juror. The court sincerely appreciates your service.
You may be wondering why you're here today and why you were selected to be part of this jury pool. Potential jurors are randomly selected from driver's license and voter registration records, as well as other sources. We are glad that you are here, and we thank you again for your service. We recognize that it's not easy for you to be here. Oftentimes, it's a burden to be away from your job and other daily responsibilities. We understand that it has taken some juggling of your schedule and responsibilities to be here. Thank you for making these adjustments in your life so that you can serve. Remember, you cannot be fired from your job because of jury service. You may also be wondering about being excused or deferred from jury duty. There are no automatic excuses based on jobs, such as being a doctor, a nurse, teacher, parent, business owner, truck driver, or even a lawyer. All have to serve. If you have an emergency, however, contact the jury clerk with that information. You may also be feeling nervous about sitting in judgment of others, but this is our system, a jury of our peers. Think about who you would want to be on a jury. Think about how you would want a juror to act if you were involved in a lawsuit. Keep this in mind and you will be a good juror. All you need to bring to the courtroom is your common sense. Every day you make judgments about people, situations, and information that you are given. This is what you will do as a juror. Your everyday common sense, combined with what you learn in the courtroom, will help you reach an impartial decision based on the evidence and the law. Once you understand the process and your role, I am sure you will feel more at ease.
This video will provide you with general information. Other specific instructions, rules, and information will be provided to you separately as it applies in the courthouse where you are serving. Rules and procedures may be different from district to district or courthouse to courthouse. If you have questions at any time, you can ask the court attendant, clerk of court, or the court administrator. I am sure you have many logistical questions on your mind, such as, where is the restroom? Where should I park? And how do I get paid? These will all be answered for you. The terms of service may also vary by location, depending upon the need and the type of case. But for the purpose of this video, the basic process of a trial remains constant statewide. Now, let's meet some of the people you will see in court. The court attendant is a person in the courtroom who maintains order and helps the judge and jury as needed. This position used to be called the bailiff. This person will be the one who guides you to the courtroom or the jury room and will have answers to your logistical questions. The court reporter is the person who keeps an electronic record of stenographic notes of everything that takes place during the trial. If needed or requested, the reporter may transcribe the notes into a written transcript of the trial for use during appeals or other instances. The jury will not receive a transcript of the testimony in most instances. The judge presides over the trial. He or she will guide you through the case and will give you instructions. Judges control the courtroom and the trial to ensure that it is conducted in a fair and impartial manner. The judge will explain to the jury about the law and how it applies to the case.
There are two types of cases that come before the court, civil and criminal. A civil case is usually one between individuals or organizations that are seeking a civil remedy, such as monetary damages. The plaintiff is the person or organization who is suing, and usually goes first. The defendant is the one being sued. Both sides most likely will have attorneys who will present evidence. Occasionally there are parties who are self-represented. In a civil case, the jury will need to decide which side proves its case by the greater weight of the evidence. The verdict will either be in favor of the plaintiff or the defendant. Often the jury is asked to decide if money should be awarded and how much. There are 8 people on the jury in a civil case. A criminal case is one in which a defendant or defendants are charged with committing a crime. The prosecuting attorney brings the charges on behalf of the state. The prosecutor represents the people. In a criminal case, the jury is asked to find the defendant guilty or not guilty. In order for the defendant to be found guilty, the jury must be convinced that the prosecuting attorney has proven guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. Before the jury begins deliberations, the judge will provide instructions on the law you are to follow.
Now, let's discuss the trial so that you know what will be happening next. The first part is to select the jury. We may need 6 to 12 jurors depending on the case. Some of you may be selected as alternate jurors, which is also very important. When the jury case is called, the clerk will randomly choose potential jurors who will be sent to a courtroom for interviews, which are known as voir dire. In the courtroom, you will learn more about the case and be questioned by the judge and attorneys. You will be sworn to answer the questions truthfully. You may be asked such things as, do you know the people involved in this case? Do you have knowledge of this case, or have you been in a similar situation? You may feel that some of the questions are too personal, but they are important as we need to ensure that the jury is fair and impartial. Be frank and honest in responding to the questions. If you feel you should not serve as a juror, or if you know the parties, witnesses, or attorneys involved in the case, tell the judge and attorneys as soon as possible. During the interview, an attorney may challenge for cause if the attorney feels that a potential juror cannot be fair and impartial. For cause means a legal reason you can't serve. The judge will decide whether to excuse the juror. Also, the lawyers are allowed a certain number of strikes in each case. If they strike your name, it simply means that you are not picked. The most important thing to remember is to tell the truth during jury selection. Once the jury is selected, it will be sworn and the trial can begin.
The trial will usually begin with opening statements by the attorneys. Opening statements should not be considered evidence. It is merely a preview of what you will hear in the trial. The statements introduce the attorney's theory of the case to the jurors. The next part of the trial is where each side will have an opportunity to present evidence. Evidence may include physical exhibits, such as photographs, objects, or documents. It may also include, and will likely include, a spoken statement from someone under oath, also known as testimony. Testimony given outside of the court and then submitted at trial is known as a deposition. The judge will decide what evidence the law allows the jurors to consider. It is important that jurors only consider evidence presented during the trial and approved by the judge when making their decision. Do not conduct your own research by visiting the location referred to in the case, or looking for additional information elsewhere, or using personal knowledge that you may have about a person or place involved in the case. Your job as a juror is to hear and understand the evidence presented in the courtroom. During the trial, the attorneys will often call witnesses to testify. Each witness is sworn and promises to tell the truth. A witness may be an attorney's own client or someone else who can testify on behalf of the client or provide information about the case. This is called direct examination. When the lawyer who called the witness has completed the questioning, the other side has an opportunity to question that witness. This is called cross-examination. In order for the jury to understand the witness's testimony, it is important for both sides to have an opportunity to question each witness.
At some points during the trial, you may hear one of the attorneys raise an objection. This means that one side is asking whether something is relevant to the case or if it can come into evidence. Sometimes one attorney or party may feel that the questions or evidence presented by the opposing attorney is improper or should not be considered by the jury. It is the attorney's responsibility in these instances to make objections to the judge. If the judge considers the question improper or the evidence inadmissible, the objection will be sustained. Otherwise, the objection will be overruled. The judge's ruling does not mean that the judge favors one side or the other, and the jurors should not allow themselves to be influenced by the ruling. On occasion, the attorneys may speak to the judge privately at the bench or in the judge's chambers, or the judge may excuse the jury from the courtroom. Usually the judge will explain the reasons for these delays. No matter how or when this occurs, do not feel slighted or attempt to guess what is being discussed. At the conclusion of the trial, attorneys from each side will make closing arguments. These closing arguments provide a summary of the attorney's arguments and evidence, but are not evidence themselves and should not be considered as such. It is like putting together the pieces of a puzzle. They will try to tie together everything that you have heard.
Near the end of the trial, the judge will talk to you about the law that applies to this case. These are called jury instructions. This is important information because it provides you with direction about how you must apply the law to the facts. Please listen carefully. Remember that you are governed by the law as the judge explains it to you. Whether you agree with the law or not, the jury must follow the law as the judge has explained it. You and the judge are under oath to apply the laws of the state of Iowa accurately and fairly. After the judge has given instructions, the jury will be excused to the jury room to deliberate or discuss the case. Your first task will be to select someone to preside over your deliberations. This person may be the foreman or the forewoman, and they will oversee the deliberations and make sure that all jurors have a chance to participate. They will also make sure that the jury discusses the issues completely while making its decision. In turn, each juror will listen to and consider the views of other jurors. Expect disagreements in the deliberation room. Not everyone heard the evidence in the same way that you did. Working through disagreements is important to the process. Understand that your opinion may change during the deliberation, but do not feel obligated to change your mind unless you are convinced it is the right thing to do. In the end, your final vote should represent your own opinion.
Remember, you can only decide on the case with evidence that has been presented to you in the trial. Don't be your own investigator. Do not visit or view any place discussed in this case. Also, do not research any information about this case, the law, or the people involved, including the parties, the witnesses, the lawyers, or the judge. This includes using the internet to research events or people referenced in the trial. If you conduct independent research, you will be relying on matters not presented in court. The parties have a right to have this case decided on the evidence they know about and that has been introduced here in court. If you do some research or investigation or experiment that we do not know about, then your verdict may be influenced by inaccurate, incomplete, or misleading information that has not been tested by the trial process, including the oath to tell the truth and by cross-examination. All of the parties are entitled to a fair trial, rendered by an impartial jury, and you must conduct yourself so as to maintain the integrity of the trial process. If you decide a case based on information not presented in court, you will have denied the parties a fair trial in accordance with the rules of this state, and you will have done an injustice. It may then be necessary for the judge to declare a mistrial. It is very important that you abide by these rules.
Please remember you may not talk or communicate with anyone about this case before reaching your verdict. This means that you cannot discuss the case with friends, family, co-workers, or other jurors until the trial is over. This includes the use of cell phones and other electronic media. The judge will ask you not to read or watch media accounts of the trial in the newspapers or on television. The only information that you can consider is what you hear and witness in the courtroom. This is the only way to get complete information about the case. And finally, remember that you cannot talk to any people connected with the case. This includes witnesses, the plaintiff, the defendant, or the attorneys. These people can also not speak to you. The verdict is what the jury will present to the court at the conclusion of your deliberations. The verdict is the finding made by the jury on the issues submitted to it. In a criminal case, all jurors must agree on the verdict beyond a reasonable doubt. In a civil case, the verdict will either be in favor of the plaintiff or the defendant.
As this presentation comes to an end, it is important to emphasize some key expectations and responsibilities as a juror. Please be prompt. Lateness causes delay and inconvenience to the judge, attorneys, parties, witnesses, and other jurors. Please be patient. Waiting is part of the process. It may seem like a waste of time with all the waiting around that is done, but there is always a reason which sometimes you will know and other times may not. A judge may be meeting with attorneys in chambers or may be deciding on a ruling. Rest assured that issues are being resolved and that the trial is indeed moving forward. Bring something to do while the court is in recess, such as a book, magazine, or crossword puzzle. Cell phones and other electronic devices need to be turned off during the trial. You will have an opportunity to use these during any recesses. While serving as a juror, do not drink alcoholic beverages during trial breaks. Dress appropriately. There is no specific dress code, but wear what would be appropriate to go to work, church, shopping, or to school. Avoid clothing that would be offensive and/or distracting to others. You want to be comfortable, but focused on your duties as a juror and not a distraction to others. If for some reason you shouldn't be on the jury after the trial has started, simply explain it to the judge, who will then decide. The same goes if you have an emergency that comes up while serving. Please notify court personnel as soon as possible. In the courtroom, your attention is critical. Follow courtroom rules, which include no hats, food, beverages, cell phones, other electronic devices, or reading materials. It is important to have your full and undivided attention during the trial. Pay careful attention to each question and answer. If you cannot hear a witness, attorney, or the judge, tell the judge by raising your hand.
Serving on a jury is a big responsibility. Remember that you are qualified to serve as a juror because you're a citizen of this state and this country. You'll bring an open mind to the proceedings that you'll hear, and you agree to do as good a job as possible on the jury. We, the people, have the right and responsibility to resolve conflict. Our system relies on the people. When our legal system is working as designed, our government is working. By serving on the jury, you are living up to your duty as a citizen. We, the people, means all of us, including you. Thanks to the jury system, every citizen can play an important role in the administration of justice in our courts. Our Constitution provides that at trial, each of us has the right to be judged by a jury of our peers. This is your opportunity to help make that system work.